Okay, welcome to this video installment. We're talking about Ironman 70.3 Boulder. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the bike course today. So you can find this yourself if you just go over to handydandy.google.com, type in 70.3 Boulder. You'll get the Boulder page. Click on that, go down to courses, hit the bike tab. Wait for your computer to load. I think this actually is a shot of the reservoir, so that's pretty nice. So then you hit courses, hit the bike course, and there's your handy dandy course map. I also like to go down to the bottom and look at here. You have total elevation gain of 2,000 feet. So keep that in mind. It's not monster, but there are two little sections here where you're going to pay the price. And we'll kind of go over those on the map. So overall, it's not, don't get confused, even though it's, in Boulder, Colorado, it's at the foothills of the mountains. So you will not actually ride into the mountains. You'll be at the foothills on Highway 36 as close as you get. But when you go towards the mountains, you're going to be climbing a little bit to get there. But overall, it is not super challenging climbing course. There's, like I said, two little sections where you have to be doing some climbing. Overall, pretty straightforward. Some nice flats, some nice downhills to make up for it. So it's not too killer. So this is your course map. I want to point out a few features of Ironman Boulder specifically. It could be, this is in August, so it could be nice and warm. Usually it's not super hot, but it will be super dry. Just keep that in mind when you're doing your hydration nutrition plan. It's easy to, especially us, like myself from the Midwest in Kansas City, where we've got a lot of humidity when we're working out. So you kind of know when you're losing sweat because you're covered in sweat. Whereas when you're doing this race, especially on the bike course, you got a little breeze going on. You're going to be losing fluids through sweat and through breathing, but you're not going to be drenched in sweat like you typically would be if you're coming from like sea level or a kind of humid area. So this is going to be key to make sure that you pay attention to your hydration nutrition strategy, even though you're not going to get usual signs and indicators that you're losing fluids like you would normally during your training. And I kind of throw that out there just because it can lull you into a false sense of security with this bike course. Like I said, it's 2,000 feet of elevation gain, which isn't nothing, but it's not super challenging. And it might be easy to kind of get lost in the views and the scenery, and you just kind of lose track of your hydration, your nutrition strategy, even sunscreen, stuff like that in T1. Make sure you get sunscreen because you'll get cooked out there if it is sunny. You'll be nice and baked for the run, and there is no shade on the run. So you got to be prepared for that. But just pay attention to your nutrition hydration strategy because this will make or break your race out in Boulder. Because if you come into T2 severely dehydrated and you don't realize it, you'll find out very quickly on the run, and you'll be walking around a reservoir instead of hopefully running. So with that, let's go over the course specifically. What's nice with 70.3 Boulder is a one transition race. So transition T1, T2, same place. Start and finish the bike in the same place. So that's always nice. So you don't have to worry about logistics of multiple transitions and where you need to be, where you need to park, where you need to have all your gear, all that kind of fun stuff. When you get done with the swim, grab your bike. This is a little fire access training road. It is kind of nice. It's nice and paved. It's in good condition. So you just ride that out to Highway 119. Head out to the right, do a U-turn, come all the way down. So at this point in time, when you're kind of heading northeast here, you probably will have a tailwind. I had a tailwind in 2018 when I did the race. And it's going to be nice, but don't get sucked in. Don't think that the rest of the race is going to be awesome like this. Find a nice rhythm. Don't go out there and just totally crank on it and try to get your speed out of here in this section in the first part of the race. You're going to hit it again at the end. So if you've got a little bit left over, now's the time to spend it at the end of the bike course, but not the beginning. So here, find a nice rhythm, get everything going, work on your hydration, nutrition. You hit this U-turn. If there is any breeze, you'll probably get a headwind coming back. So we hit the U-turn, you're coming back. do not turn on 71st Street. They should not allow you. There should be signs up. You coming through, you hit a right on 63rd Street, right on Newott Road. So you're going behind the reservoir in these kind of residential roads. They're paved, they're nice and good condition. But once you turn on 36 Highway, right here's where you're going to hit that spike. So you're going to have a kind of a low, slow grind of a climb. There's going to be a few little sections where you get a little bit of recovery, but typically you're going to be climbing up to this point until you hit Nelson Road. Then you're going to have a nice downhill. Again, do not hammer it on this downhill section. Find a nice rhythm, get an arrow, tuck, and get as much recovery as possible. Then you hit 65th Street. Then you hit the St. Vrain Road. So this is going to be a challenge because this is going to be a nice little climb in a short distance, especially when you get back to the section where you're going to turn back on 36 Highway. This is a very steep little section. So just be ready. Make sure you got your gearing in place as you're climbing up these hills, and just don't get caught off guard too high a gear, and then you're shifting and smashing your gears and, you know, possibly throwing your chain and stuff like that. So make sure that you're prepared for a good steep little climb in this section. Once you hit 36 Highway, then you start hitting the nice little downhill sections, and you can kind of ride that out. Just find a nice good rhythm, find your target power that you're looking for, a nice rhythm on the cadence, and just, you know, work on hydration, nutrition, and, you know, it's pretty straightforward, straight road, nothing too crazy. But once you get back out here in 71st Street, pay attention to the directions, because you have to do this diagonal highway twice. So you do it in the first, when you come out, take a right, U-turn, and then hit 63rd Street. Then when you come back off of 71st by the exit for transition, and it will deduct you, it should be fairly obvious that you're missing quite a few miles on that bike course if you hit transition first. Make sure you're paying attention. You need to do this loop a second time, coming through, and then go to transition. So again, start in transition, turn right, hit the first U-turn, second U-turn, come back 63rd Street, and then follow all the turns and the signs. Come back in, you're doing your loop. Then you hit 119 Highway, diagonal highway again, come down, go by transition, ride the U-turn, and then come back to transition. So make sure you hit it twice. I wasn't too sure about that, but they've got it in the directions. So make sure that you're paying attention. So generally, that is my overview of the bike course. Like I said, I think it's a good bike course. You should have a fairly decent bike split time on there. Just make sure you're staying within your training, within yourself. Like I said, don't spend your energy up front. The first time through diagonal, find a nice little cadence. You're going to have a headwind, and then come through. And these climbs are where you're going to need your energy. So this first climb, make sure, you know, you find your spot, you're working your gears, and you're climbing. And then on this second part on St. Vrain Road, make sure that you are ready for this climb. It is going to be steep, and it's going to be a challenge. Once you get back to 36, it all becomes a little bit more straightforward. And this last section of diagonal highway, this is where, if you got the energy, this is where you can put a little bit more, maybe, you know, up the wattage a little bit if you've been a little bit behind the rest of the race, and come back and U-turn, realizing you're probably going to have a headwind to come back and transition. So overall, like I said, not too wild of a course, not too many turns, very scenic, very nice, very well stocked with volunteers and aid stations, plenty of opportunities, you know, porta potties if you need them. Just make sure on 36 Highway, just make sure if they've got it coned off, you're staying in the right section for cones. Used to be in the past, they would cone off a little bit into the road, and then they move the lanes over to the other shoulder. So just make sure on 36 Highway, you're paying attention to traffic. There could be situations where there could be bunched up cyclists. Do not go outside the cones. And a couple years ago in the full out there, unfortunately, someone went outside the cones and got hit by a vehicle. So don't let that happen to you. Make sure you're paying attention to traffic and you're not just zoned out and riding along. And make sure you're paying attention to the shoulder on the right, because if you get in that gravel, you're going to kind of you'll probably take a spill and it won't be very fun. So don't zone out there. Don't space out. Make sure you're paying attention. Usually the 36 highway is in good shape pavement wise, but just make sure, there might be a few cracks on the shoulder. Just make sure you're paying attention to cyclists, yourself, and vehicles, and you should be okay. But overall, like I said, there's not too many things, not too many surprises. Like I said, if you're going towards the mountains into the foothills, you'll have a little bit of a climb in these two sections where you're coming back from the mountains. But going away and then coming back to reservoir should have a nice downhill with a few little rollers in there. And it shouldn't be too crazy or too wild out there. But like I said, the other key factor is staying on top of hydration and nutrition, because it's easy to get off track on this course because if the weather conditions are kind of medium, it's not too hot, and maybe it's a little bit overcast or something like that, you're not really going to feel it until you start on the run, and then you realize you're either sunburnt because you forgot sunscreen, or dehydrated because you forgot to stay up on the bike and you're more dehydrated than you thought. That's where it's going to show up. So this bike course in that regard would make or break you if you do not plan your strategy properly to be ready for the run. But overall, with 2,000 feet of elevation gain, it's not going to completely deplete you unless, like a course where you're maybe at 3,500, 4,000, and it's a lot of climbing. Like I said, just two sections there, and then coming back in, you should have ample opportunity to recover from the climbs. So that, in a nutshell, is my recommendation for the 70.3 Boulder bike course for 2020. If you have any questions, as always, make a comment, reply to the emails, and I'll give you any thoughts and ideas that I have on the course as well. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.